Yours and you're there.
All right. I have 1 o'clock. It's time to call this meeting to order. Welcome to Oakley, Kansas. I'd like to start by the intro. I'm Gerald Lauber from Topeka. And Ryder, Columbus.
Lauren Quayle Sill, Hutchison.
Troy Sporer, Oakland.
The cameras, Brad, this is support.
Emmerich's on there.
Emmerich Cross, Kansas.
Commissioner Cross is on. I can see him.
Can you hear me?
We can.
This is Emmerich Cross, Kansas City. Thank you.
And Brad Lovis, Secretary from Topeka. Mike Miller, Assistant Secretary from Pratt.
Chris Tymason, Legal Counsel.
Okay. Sheila, are there any additions or deletions to the agenda items? All right. Meeting minutes of September 23rd. I'd like approval of the minutes. Second. It's been moved and seconded, the minutes be approved. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Now's the time where we raise your hand. Phil is going to be our new commissioner. Gary. We're glad to have you on board. You're from Garden City?
Yes, sir. I am from Garden City. To the Garden City Community College and been with Black Hills Energy for 40 years. Just recently retired from the gas company and looking forward to liking the issues.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Okay. Back to general public comment on non-agenda items. Is there anything? Well, then we'll move right into state fiscal status.
Thank you, Chairman Lauber, members of the commission. Before I get to talk a minute about his position.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Okay, out in the hybrid world, the volume keeps going in and out, so I'm not sure what, we aren't hearing what's going on necessarily all the time, but can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
All right. Well, it's with some remorse that I am informing the commission that this will be my last meeting, and I'm apologizing for not being there in person, but I had knee surgery and timing of things is never optimal. But I will be leaving the department on December the 15th.
I would just report we will miss him, but we wish him well with his new job as Fire Club International. It's a great job. It's a great fit for Chris, and they're getting a fantastic person. So we're really happy for Chris. Went to Fort Hays State and has served us well over our budget process as well as facilities and engineering. Has accepted a job with KDOT, being chief over the right. Other people recognize their greatness and they want them too. So we've had two of our best stolen away. So with that said, I would move on to our agency fiscal status. A bunch of preparations for the fiscal year 22 and 23 fiscal years. Our EDIF apportionment, as we kind of forecasted to you all before, will go down to just over $3.5 million. When tourism moved over to Commerce, they took the portion that we gave them when they came to us. Take that with them. So they like that money and they're taking it with them. So they'll need that as they're doing their good work over in Commerce. Food fund. For fiscal year 2020 by 21%. So that was a big jump. So the parks are doing really well. Incredibly busy, as you're aware, but to back that up, importantly, with that busyness, expenses went up. So the extra revenue is really needed to cover all their costs. Cabin revenue was up in fiscal year 21, 47% over the previous. In high demand. Wildlife Fee Fund was up overall about 8% from last year, fiscal year 20. Currently, we're down about 10% from last year at this time. However, with our current balance at the end of fiscal year 21 was 32 million. And so we feel like we're still in good shape. We're down a little bit. In some ways, but overall, we're doing fine with the Wildlife Fee Fund, and that's a critical fund for us as we use it to match a lot of those federal funds that we need to run the department. For wildlife restoration receipts, our year-to-date total is the year-to-date total for the federal side. So the total is 834 million. That's what we'll get our share from, at the end of this year. So importantly, we all know that manufacturing rates are as high as they've ever been, even with the shortages that manufacturers are experiencing, and sales are as high as they've ever been. So we're puzzled that the tax receipts off those sales is actually down a little bit. Fish and Wildlife Service, I was on a call with them just the other day. They still can't explain it, but they're still not believing. Report. Mr. Chair, I'm glad to stand for questions.
I have one question. Now that tourism is being away from our agency, are we economically better, worse, or unchanged?
Really, I'll say overall unchanged, but the reason why I mentioned that EDIF or the lottery money is because it's just for transparency. We don't have any misgivings about this, but for transparency, when they came to us, they really didn't have any money. They didn't have much funding. And so we took a portion of what Wildlife and Parks at that time had from EDIF, a little over $5 million. We gave a portion of that to tourism so they could fund their programs because their programs are important and they had no money. When they left, a big question was, were we going to try to hold on to that and keep that and say, you're welcome to go over to Commerce, but leave the money, our EDIF money here. We didn't feel like that was fair. We wanted them to get off to a good start. They perform a really important function for the state that benefits our agency as well as the rest of the state. And so we felt like it was in everybody's best interest if we let them take that 1.7 or so million dollars with them. So from that perspective, we were 1.7 million poorer when they left us than when they first came. But all the other things they do, all the other programs were fees that were self-generated. And so that had no impact on us. So we have no misgivings about them taking that money with them, and everything else is going fine. And one of the benefits, we talked about it at the time of them moving to Commerce, that's the world Commerce deals in. And there's a lot of money moving, and they get shares of the big pie that Commerce deals with that they didn't have access to before when they were in our shop. So I think they're
The EDIF money is gone forever, probably.
It is.
Any other questions for? Well, hearing none, thanks. Next will be the 2022 Legislature. Chris?
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, we do have a legislative report for last session. We're in the second year. We're about to start the second year of a 2-year cycle. So bills that were introduced last year are still alive this next session. I'll just launch into those. Senate Bill 142, Coast Guards and personal flotation devices. And I believe we're going to, it updates the personal flotation device references, and we're going to vote on that this evening. It also had provisions in there updating language related to unlawful commercial take and American Fisheries Society manual reference. So we updated that. There was a bill that dealt with claims against the state, and there was one claim in there that dealt with the department. That passed and was signed by the governor. Senate Bill 225 is would move our law enforcement folks into KPNF. And that bill made it out of the Senate committee, I think, and onto the Senate floor, where it sits today. Senate Bill 269 deals with dangerous regulated animals and updates those statutes. That bill was introduced late in the session and didn't go anywhere. ERO 48, that was the executive reorganization order of the governor that transferred tourism from our department back to Commerce, and we just talked about that. House Bill 2025 would prohibit our agency law enforcement officers from entering private land without a warrant. That bill went out of committee. It was a broader bill directed at multiple agencies, ultimately came back into committee, got modified, and then only dealt with our department, and that's where it sits now. House Bill 2032 would repeal the artificial light provisions related to coyotes. That didn't go anywhere. House Bill 2089 dealt with hunter ed in the schools. It was what's called a gut and go. So late in the session, they put the provisions of that bill into another bill, gutted the old bill, sent it out, it passed, and then had to go back through both houses because it was a different bill. Went to the governor and it was vetoed. It would have required, if there was a gun safety program, as it applied to the agency. Schools could either choose us or Eddie Eagle in middle school, and then our Hunter Ed program in high school. We already have Hunter Ed in many schools. House Bill 2284 would reduce park fees for seniors by half price. That bill did not go anywhere. House Bill 2331 is the current rendition of landowner deer transferable permits. That bill had a hearing and did not go anywhere. House Bill 2336 would have made it a crime to shoot a wildlife decoy, a simulated decoy, like a deer decoy, for example. That bill went out of the committee and then didn't make it across the House floor. And so it was stricken from the calendar by deadlines. And then finally, House Bill 2392 would give free lifetime hunt, fish, and trap licenses to members of the Army National Guard who have served 20 years honorably or retired. We do have a legislative package currently that we're working on. It's in development. We'll talk about that at the January meeting, and I'd be happy to stand for any questions.
Chris, the one, I think it's a House bill, sort of a law enforcement prevention. Tell me again where that is at.
That, I believe, is in House Fed and State Affairs.
Okay, and if I understand that, it is now directed strictly at wildlife and parks conservation officers, that they are unable to go onto private property to arrest somebody poaching or whatever, to either ask questions or give a citation without having a warrant first.
It would require
a warrant to surveil private property or to enter private property. So it's pretty strong.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Question, does that mean if the owner of the property calls game warden to investigate something, they can't enter the property without a warrant?
So consent, a landowner could consent.
The landowner could what?
Consent.
So the landowner can consent, but if there's no landowner present, there has to be a warrant.
That's correct.
And if the landowner is engaging in illegal activity, he just stays on his property and there's nothing the game warden can do.
That would be correct as well.
Does a landowner have to consent for every incident, or can you provide law?
I did not
hear the last part of the warrant.
Can a landowner give a consent for an indeterminate or a lengthy point of time, or is it per incident that they have to give consent?
I think that the landowner probably can give blanket consent.
Would you say blanket?
Yes.
It's my surmise that the bill was drafted hurriedly and there are a lot of unintended consequences, one of which would be to negate the power of purple paint on a game warden's hands. At least that's my impression of it.
Mr. Chairman, I comment if that's all right. Yeah, Brad Lovelace, Secretary. Yeah, we reviewed this. One of the questions we posed to the people sponsoring this bill was, can you identify problems that are caused by our current arrangement? And they couldn't. So from my time here, of the landowner who says, I don't feel like your law enforcement folks used the on mine, not a single one. The other thing that was important, and when Colonel Kaiser testified against this bill, we had a long list of search and rescue functions. You can imagine how disastrous it would be when you get a call, and we had specific ones. I can think of an elderly person with dementia that wandered off in the winter, late in the afternoon. And so we went out to find them as temperatures were dropping, and ended up, our officers found them huddled up around some hay bales, trying to stay warm. And we were able to respond immediately without asking permission from all. A boy who had some mental issues, but had an affinity for water, got away from his grandmother, went across a highway into a stream, was in a log jam in March, right, in a river. And we found that person with the aid of our canine officers, and in short order. But hypothermia comes pretty fast that time of year. And so you can imagine if we weren't allowed to go on those properties, follow where the dog wants to go to help these folks. So we think our folks perform a critical mission, and they do it very responsibly and to the benefit of.
Well, every agency has detractors, malcontents, and people who wish to do harm to the agency. This particular bill was drafted in an irrational, myopic manner that was designed to punish wildlife and parks in general, not because there was any incident to where there had been an abuse. Hopefully that we will be able to convey the irrationality of the bill, and we'll be able to keep it from being ever made into law. Are there any other questions for Chris or?
Yeah, just curious, has there been testimony in favor of the bill from anywhere?
Well, we appreciated the law enforcement groups across the state testified against it as that go on in the legislative process. It narrowed down to really what I think the intended target was. That was us. Mm-hmm. So those agencies, though, came out saying this is not good, and they even came out and just in terms of its impact on us, and said wildlife and parks work side by side with all of our other entities, especially in rural areas, and so those folks were against it also. The only people that spoke, it was interesting, they didn't realize that an officer could go and check a person when they see them out there hunting on a property. That's always been land without asking permission. And it was like, it was a right that they thought they had, that was being taken away. That was the way it was kind of portrayed. This shouldn't be a right taken away from you. And so it kind of got misconstrued, I think. Yeah. And certainly the impact did.
Has Farm Bureau or KLA taken a position?
I'm trying to remember. Chris, do you remember?
I believe Farm Bureau stayed silent and KLA supported it.
Is supporting it?
Okay.
Yes.
Just,
It's not uncommon for the KLA to support things that we are against.
right.
Even though I hate to say that, even though I have an eat beef tag on the front of my car. I received a question from a constituent about a vague, unsubstantiated cameras to spy on people. It was kind of preposterous, but this constituent believed it to have legs, and he'd heard it from a reliable source. And I think there was a certain amount of and I think this would just be a mistake. So we will do our efforts to combat it. I would like to see if Farm Bureau have to fight that perception.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Brad Lovelace again. We did. If it comes up again, we will be able to talk with them. And it was clear to us their intentions were simply to look out for the rights of landowners, but they understand very well the benefits that their constituents receive by this. And certainly a lot of them have those purple fence posts that you were talking about, Chairman, and they intend for us to be able to come on and check people.
Commissioner Spohr, Brad or Chris, I guess, refresh the commission on who sponsored this bill, who's the originator?
Chris, do you remember?
I believe it was Corbett.
Ken Corbett.
Thank you.
Imagine that.
You know?
What's, Chris, Commissioner Spohr,
Topeka.
is this just going to go away? Is that your opinion?
I don't know. I mean, it went back into committee and it's still sitting there. They didn't work it before the end of the year and sent it back out. But everything's still live for the next year.
Thank you.
One other comment I might make, again, Secretary Lovelace, was we were really appreciative when we sent out a note talking about this bill. Obviously, we weren't lobbying because we can't lobby, but we sent out a note to a bunch of our stakeholders about what we thought the impacts of this bill would be. A lot of the legislators were really deluged with comments from people who thought that this was a bad idea. And so we really appreciated that, and we definitely will communicate again if it comes out and expect our stakeholders will again rally for the law enforcement part of our staff.
Any other questions for anything for Chris?
I do.
Yes.
Are there any other new bills in the works that or possibly in the works that you're aware of that we need an advance heads up on?
The only bill that I've heard of is one related to lifetime licenses and kids. I haven't seen a draft or anything like that. But it would reduce the cost.
And Chris, just to clarify, Secretary Lovelace, if I recall, that bill was targeted for very young children, the idea being you'd reduce the cost, but it would be focused on an age range.
We keep cutting out
volume-wise, so I can't hear.
I heard.
I heard the part about it's targeted, and it's rolled on to 5 years.
Yeah, is that correct? Is that the way that bill is supposed to function?
Again, I haven't seen a draft, but yes, that was the conceptual plan that was floated.
Okay. Yeah, so pretty narrow, the idea, and there's no, it's not necessarily a bad idea. The devil's in the details, and so now that we know about it, we're having conversations back and forth, talk about how that would work. If you recall, we've talked in the past about the fact that this money is critically important for leveraging those federal funds that we're talking about, and and you have to pass certain tests for you to be able to claim. But I'd make that point, and he can embellish if he'd like. It's really critical that if we do these kind of things, we structure them properly, so everybody's not penalized, right, for generosity and of a one issue. So Mike, I don't know if you'd like to add into that.
Yeah, Mike Miller. Federal aid, and that did open up some of our, like our senior lifetime, some of our youth multi-year licenses. But you always have to look and see if you sold one to someone who was 1 or 2 years old, at the price you charge, how long would you be able to count that as a license for federal aid? And that's something that we have to look into, do the calculations and see what impact that would have on revenue. And then the Wildlife Conservation Fund, which is where lifetime licenses go, we have to look at that as well. So we haven't done a lot of that calculations yet, but there is concern there.
Okay, what part of the different, we are appointed officials and not elected officials, and we propose regs. We have to have a lot of notice, a lot of public hearing. For us to pass a reg may take 9 months. For elected officials to pass a statute, they can do that in an afternoon. So while we see these things coming down in the form of statutes, we have a strong opinion, but we have to rely on staff to quickly block them and deal with them in a quick lobbying effort, because we can't move fast enough to do any defensive moves or measures to protect us from them. They're interesting to know, and I like to be aware of them, and some of them, as a stakeholder, they really
One of the things we've started the last couple of years, and Nadia's Public Affairs section has put together a list of stakeholder groups, and we've been really proactive in keeping those stakeholder groups informed about legislation, you know, good and bad. And that's where the power can be, is those stakeholder groups. If they see an issue that they don't agree with, if they can contact their local legislators, that has a lot of impact. And so we really pursue that, and we try to keep that communication line open as much as possible with our stakeholders.
All right, is any other comments on this section? We've had a good discussion about it. Any discussion from the public? Well, thank you, Chris. Good luck.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Now let's move into the general discussion part of the meeting, starting with conversion to the brand information system. Jessica?
Good afternoon. Thank you, Chairman Lauber and Commissioners, for this opportunity to appear before you this afternoon. It is my sincere honor today to invite you all to save the date for May 1st, 2022, for the launch of Go Outdoors Kansas. That's going to be our new solution through which we will be serving all of our customers, including all of you, for hunting, fishing, and trapping licenses and permits in Kansas. As some of you already know, we've come a long way since launching our first online and e-licensing in Kansas nearly 2 decades ago, on the heels of unprecedented outdoor participation in 2020 and some rapidly changing technologies. KDWP staff began working with Brand Information Services earlier this year to build this new customer-focused licensing and permit sales for hunting, fishing, and boating privileges earlier this year. The new Kansas e-commerce system will serve as the new one-stop shop, facilitating the state's hunting and fishing license sales, our limited license draws, merchandise sales, and more. As I said, this is set to launch on May 1st, and it will bring to life an improved experience for our team, internally, for our constituents, and for all of our visitors. This new solution's going to include an improved user experience, improved boat registrations, a private mobile application for law enforcement, and physical hard cards for hunting and fishing licenses. A free public app will also allow users to sync their current licenses, make new license purchases, and view all of their regulations in one place. We've been working really hard to implement this new solution, but the most rewarding parts of this process so far have been the opportunities to work across divisions, especially with wildlife, fisheries, parks, and public lands, and everyone else has already all been at the table. And it's because of the number of staff and divisions that we've worked with and the guidance from Brant that involved that we are confident that we're making the right decisions for Kansas. So I'm sure that you all can't wait to learn more. And in a moment, I'll introduce our friends at Brant Information Services who are able to join us today through the magic of hybrid meetings. And I'll let them tell you what we think you should know. But I'll be back to take some questions and comments from you because you are the first of our customers to have this opportunity. So Tiffany, Kelsey, Rob, Taylor, and Denari, welcome, and I look forward to your presentation.
Hey, thanks so much for having us and letting us going to talk about this. I'm going to go. You guys can see the presentation. Do you just want to give a heads up that we are having volume come in and out a little bit and some feedback, so we're going to keep going and talking like you guys can hear, but bear with us if we can't hear you guys if you say something. Really quick before we jump in, is it possible to get Kelsey Hersey to be unmuted if possible and a co-host?
Great. Hi, everybody. I need the permissions to share my screen. Great. All right, Jessica, thank you for the warm welcome. We are very excited to be here. Thank you, Commission Secretary Lovelace and the department for allowing us the opportunity to present today. We're excited to talk to you about the new licensing and registration system, Go Outdoors Kansas. We just have a few slides that we want to go through a little bit to walk you through today, a little bit about us and our partnership, some new system features, functionalities, and things to look forward to, as well as some additional partnership opportunities that will be a part of our launch. A little bit about us, about Brant. We are a licensing and registration system provider. Brant has been around for 36 years, and our specialty is in outdoor recreational solutions, specifically hunting and fishing licensing systems and boat registration systems. Our system is currently live in a variety of states: Florida, Georgia, Virginia, Tennessee, Oklahoma, Iowa, and Idaho. And we are very happy to be bringing that expertise and experience here in Kansas. Our systems include a variety of the functionality that we were looking for in this, which is fishing and hunting licenses, limited draws, boat registrations, customer-facing mobile apps, private mobile apps, customer support and phone sales, license agent support, fulfillment, mailing, and strategic and digital marketing initiatives. And this has been an amazing partnership so far. We started working with the department several months ago with a very large team, and it's been a wonderful collaboration and partnership so far, working with Jessica and her team, Shanda, Mary, Jason, Arlen, Aaron, Tana, Megan, Brody. A very large group. Has been really wonderful and a collaborative process so far. We're very excited about this partnership, and one of the big things is an aligned vision with the department for a modern and full service technology system that serves the department, its license agents, and ultimately the customers. As Jessica mentioned, it'll be launching in mid-2022, and here to talk about some of the system features, we have Tiffany Sanagati.
Thanks, Kelsey. These are just a few features that we really wanted to highlight that will be coming with the new system as it gets rolled out next year. That should be really great, not only for your constituents, but for KDWP too, and KDWP staff and administrators to really streamline things. So we'll just kick off with the next slide, if that works, and talk a little bit about some of the great things that we're going to be able to offer for boat registrations. The Go Outdoors platform is going to allow customers to have a more streamlined process for getting their boats registered. They'll be able to go online and start that registration process upload their proof of ownership and documentation electronically, receive status notifications and updates via email. And then KDWP administrators are going to have real-time electronic queues to review these registrations, approve them or deny them, request additional information electronically to really streamline that process altogether and reduce some of that data entry and manual burden that the KDWP staff currently handles with a large volume of mailed-in paper applications. Of course, that would still be an option available to customers who want to do that, but we've seen really, really great success in offering this registration process to customers online. And then making it easy for customers to renew, renewal reminders, quick ways to renew their registration online and so forth. So really excited for that piece. And then moving into the customer mobile apps, like Jessica mentioned, there'll be an iOS and an Android mobile app that customers will be able to download from their app store for free. And it'll give them access to doing things like syncing their profiles and accessing their licenses offline when they don't have service and they're out in their fields, offline game check and harvest reporting features, and quick access to KDWP resources and cool tools like, sunrise and sunset times, feeding times, regulations, and so forth. So really, really excited for this, and it'll be a great value add for your customers. Law enforcement mobile app, empowering officers out in the field through their mobile device. So the Go Law mobile app that will be available to law enforcement. It's a private app that's only available to authorized KDWP users that gives them real-time like lookup capabilities in the field. Even when they're offline, again, don't have service or network, they can verify customers' licenses, scan license documents, driver's license barcodes to find customers, track their scan activity, log notes under customer profiles, and do a lot end-to-end to better support them out in the field, even, again, when reception is. So we're really excited for that one as well, rolling that one out to help the field officers with more information at their fingertips. And improving the user experience. We understand the importance of providing customers with an easy-to-use solution. While business rules might be complex, it's going to be really important to still simplify that user experience for your customers and end users and make it easy for them to just participate and go outdoors. So with that, we're going to be rolling out a simpler login process that allows customers to securely locate their accounts using a combination of unique identifiers to make that login process a little bit smoother. Empower KDWP with administrative capabilities to manage the system configurations and changes so that the system can adapt to program changes and changes to KDWP's initiative. And multi-customer family, letting customers make purchases from multiple customers all in one transaction to streamline, again, that purchase process, make it as easy as possible for people to go outdoors. And those are just a few highlights of, some of the features that we're really excited about. This solution is really going to be an end-to-end platform for KDWP and customers to be that one-stop shop. And we are really excited to bring our ideas and collaborate with KDWP. Like Kelsey said, it's been an amazing collaboration so far, and we really appreciate this opportunity. I'm going to pass it back over to Kelsey to talk some about hard cards and some really fun marketing stuff.
So in addition to all those great system features, and I noticed for a moment there that the commission, the in-person crew went offline. So if there's anything you need us to repeat, please let us know at the end and we can take any questions you may have. But in addition to the boat registrations, the customer mobile app, law enforcement mobile app, and improved user experience, we'll also be offering the customers an optional durable hard card that they can receive a copy of in the mail that they could use in replace of the paper license. So it is durable. You can put it in your tackle box, put it in your truck, put it with your hunting gear, and you'll always have a valid license on hand that way. It does have a QR code on it for law enforcement to be able to easily scan and look up customer information. But one of the really great things about this is not only does it provide a way to put KDWP's brand in the consumer's wallet and for them to hold on to, but $1 of each of those cards that are sold goes into a dedicated Go Outdoors Kansas marketing fund, where we will be able to fund some interesting and fun strategic tactics to be able to better communicate with your constituents and offer being able to tell that story a bit better. So a little bit about what the marketing outreach initiatives may look like as a result of this partnership is really creating an opportunity to communicate where the conservation dollars go, how the funding model works, why they should care, why they should participate, and why they should get back outdoors again, and providing automated opportunities to get your resources in the hands of the public. Through email, through push notifications, through digital ads. We'll be able to do integrations with the licensing system in order to streamline communications for your department as well. Very much looking forward to that. Thank you again for the opportunity to present. If we had any connectivity issues or anything you'd like us to repeat, please let us know, but we're happy to stand for some questions.
Okay, are there any questions?
Is this going to replace Hunters Kansas, and also will they take care of the deer draw?
Yes, this will replace our current solution, and they will be doing all of our draws.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chairman, Mike Miller, I just want to say this has been a long, winding road to get here. I'm really excited for what Brant has to offer. I think it's going to be really good for us and for our customers. And I got to give Jessica an awful lot of credit because there was some really big roadblocks we ran into in getting to the point we're at now. So we're really happy to be where we're at and really looking forward to going live this spring. So I think you'll really appreciate and like what you see out of this.
Okay. One other question, Commissioner Ryder. Is there anything the user will have to do with the transfer? Will the user have to log in or change anything, or will that?
That's a fantastic question. So they will have to download a different app. It will require a different app download. But other than that, we've streamlined the sign-in process, so you don't have to know your username and your password. You can look yourself up if you know enough personal information about yourself to get signed in. So that should make things a lot easier for people who are like me and can't remember any of their passwords and usernames. So.
How is the security if you only have to know some information about yourself? How is the security with that?
Sure. It's, I would defer to Jason on, maybe any major technical assumptions about that, but the system that I'm familiar with is one that is very
You can look yourself up with just a little bit of information about yourself. That's not hard for other people to get. So how secure is this?
Hi, coming out in and out a little bit, but I think I heard what you were talking about making sure it's a secure solution. That's definitely really important, and we always try to make sure there's multiple identifiers. Some of them might be easier to access than others, but they do have a combination of those identifiers to make it really tricky. There's also other things that we can enable, like multi-factor authentication, where a customer could enter their credentials to locate their customer profile. And then we can send them a text or an email to verify their identity to prevent others from logging in. So we understand the importance of that and make sure that we still implement something that has some stringent security controls. One thing too is that we always restrict a view for any major sensitive information on customer profiles. So there's not a ton that can be pulled from there. Well, the system has social security numbers and things like that. Those data points are not displayed online so that we can protect that data as well.
For 48 hours. You can't go on camp at Kansas and see what not too far from my route. I wonder if there's any places where you can't find that out in immediate time. Will this new one correct that so that you have real-time information on availability of campsites?
Not immediately, and the reason for that is that the hunt fish license application will be separate from the Camp of Kansas application for the time being. And the reason that is because the Kansas is under a current contract. There's only 3 or 4 years left in the contract. And so this contract to go outdoors Kansas with information systems will be limited to hunting and fishing and boating trapping privileges.
Okay,
Not
I
include the camping.
misunderstood. Okay. And this does not restrict people from still going to their local sporting goods store, Walmart, and buying licenses there. That's still an option.
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay, and last one. When somebody has a question, because multiple friends call me and say, I'm trying to buy a deer license, and there's a little time, or is it office hours access only?
One of the things that we've been considering system, and so we've been working with Brant to put in some parameters. So, for example, if you signed on and you specifically wanted to purchase, you were a resident, you wouldn't see any of the non-resident licenses. So that put in, like, if you're an adult, you may not be interested in purchasing a youth license. If you're a youth, you may not be interested in purchasing an adult license. So there's some other things that we can do in there to reduce that number of lists and only show the licenses and permits that that individual is actually eligible for at the time.
And are there full descriptors in there for someone who, well, I want to hunt with my bow, so I need an archery license, not realizing that if they buy an archery license, there's some pros to that. They could hunt mule deer, but there's no mule deer in Sedgwick County, so they really should have bought any whitetail license so that they could hunt during rifle season or some such thing. Are there clear enough descriptors involved to help guide people through those fairly readily?
I cannot answer that right this minute, but that is definitely something that we have been talking about. We're still in the process of building the system, but these are all things that are definitely, we've heard from other constituents and from you guys in the past as far as concerns that we want to make sure we address. So I agree. Those are phone calls that we get every once in a while, and so
I'm on the Oklahoma Wildlife and Parks website right now. Will Kansas's website look similar to the Oklahoma website, or will it be totally different?
There'll be some, Oklahoma uses other platforms also. There'll be some similarities between the two, but the design and the colors and everything will be branded to match KDWP.
Couple comments. One on the security question. That was one I remember interviewing different applicants competing with us. We asked them, and one of the questions we went to, because your thought, Commissioner Sill, about, well, if you make it easier for me to sign on and I have trouble remembering it, then can data breaches. And Brant had a tremendous record when it came to that. So very high standards for that. The other thing that I might point out, and Mr. Floor mentioned, you have a licensing system like Oklahoma. It has a remarkable record in the industry as being kind of the ones that lead the pack. They're always thinking ahead of new innovations. They provide those for us as opposed to us going and saying, why can't we do this? We expect them to come to us and say, you want to think about doing this? To stay ahead, because they're the experts, and they should lead us on that. So we're really enthused about the quality of their working relationship with us, and then also with our customers. Customer support, your question about how will they answer questions, was really remarkable compared to what the other vendors offered. I will tell you, of our customers and their willingness to come back again, we think they really exceeded everybody else by a long distance. So very excited, to Jessica's point about working with Brent.
Mr. Chairman, I got a quick question. This is, you can do all your licensing through this, correct? Your hunting licenses, all the various licenses. Can you get your federal duck stamp through?
I'm so glad you asked. We are currently working, we've got an application partially finished. I've been in contact with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and the coordinator for that program, and we should be able to offer electronic duck stamps to Kansas, if not this year by May 1st, at least hopefully by next duck season.
Okay.
Yep.
Good.
Mr. Chairman, Mike Miller again, if I might just address one of Commissioner Sills' issues. The intuitiveness of the purchasing and application process were really big issues to us when we looked at a new vendor. And Brant provided some of the best options we could find. And so what Jessica and her staff are doing right now are going through all of these processes to make it as easy and as convenient and as intuitive for our customers. Because that was one of the issues you ran into every year with people getting confused on making an application and either getting the wrong permit or getting frustrated. So that was a huge issue through this whole process, and we're very confident that this is going to improve dramatically.
Commissioner,
Go ahead.
Sport, on the Oklahoma website, you can buy a federal duck stamp, and a printed copy is valid for 45 days until you get the physical stamp
Yes.
on the Oklahoma website.
That's a federal requirement.
Right.
So even if we do allow the purchase through our system, we have that agreement with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. The electronic one is only valid until the new one till the actual one shows up.
So it's possible in Oklahoma to buy a federal duck stamp
Yes,
through their website.
yes. And we'll be able to do that as well soon.
So does that get mailed to, the actual stamp get mailed?
The constituent, yes, the individual who purchases. Well, you will have and ask us questions about this. We want to keep those communications open. This is a system designed to serve you guys, our licensed buyers, and our agency, and we're really confident that it's going to do that, but we need you guys to tell us if something's not working. So appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Let's move on to one more agenda item, Hunter Education Changes. Ken Barrett.
Yeah, you can
Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, my name is Kent Barrett. It's really good to be back out here in western Kansas. Just a little bit of information about me. I raised my family 22 miles west of here, straight west of here in the little township of Wainona. So, my brother worked in Russell for a long time.
Okay.
Max.
Yeah.
Sheriff's office. So anyway, we all know each other around here, so it's nice to be here and nice to have an opportunity to talk about hunter education. I'm the hunter education coordinator, the outdoor education supervisor. I've been doing this now for 11 years. I'm starting my 12th year with the agency.
And it's good to be able to talk about hunter education and what we're actually doing with our system right now. So to begin with, I think it's important for us to talk about where this all started. So.
Yeah.
It's on. You broke it again.
What is it pointing at, a laptop or a screen?
A little bit of background information about hunter education. This all started a long time ago in 1937, back when President Franklin Roosevelt It was drafted by a gentleman from Oregon by the name of Carl Shoemaker, who was a state game warden and also was the chief of the Oregon Committee on Conservation and Wildlife Resources, and he was responsible for drafting this bill back in 1937. It was co-sponsored by Senator Key Pittman from Nevada and Congressman Absalom Willis Robertson from Virginia, and forever their names have been tied or associated with this bill, and it's become known as the Pittman-Robertson Act, or just PR. And it was designed from the very beginning to be a user pays, user benefit system. And that point can't be overstated because it has been hunters and shooters who have been the driving force for wildlife conservation throughout all these years. It was funded, it directly changed the way funding was done for wildlife restoration by taking an already existing excise tax of 10% that was being levied on long guns and long gun ammunition. That remained in effect until 1954, when that excise tax was elevated to 11%, where it stands today. The funds that are generated by this appropriation are apportioned back to the states using a specific formula, and I'm sure you're familiar with that half of that is determined by the size of the state in square miles, and the other half by the number of licensed hunters in that state. Kansas is a minimally funded state, which simply means that along with our good friends in Nebraska, South and North Dakota, Wyoming, and other states approximately the same size as us, we're given the least amount of money that's available, which is fine. We'll work with it. As the bill was written, there were 5 specific purposes that the funds could be used for, and only those 5 purposes. But those purposes provided the basis for the conservation successes that we've seen throughout the nation. Things like the restoration of the white-tailed deer, wild turkeys, American elk, wood ducks, other game and non-game species. All these populations were benefited by the amount of money that was brought in from this. There were certain prohibitions that were designed within this bill. Could not be used for law enforcement, could not be used for public relations, and it was not to be used for activities that were specifically designed to raise revenue. So we weren't supposed to make money off of it. So we have found ways to help our wildlife populations without having to do that. But it was in the 1970s that we saw the first changes or amendments to what was going on. First happened in 1970. A 10% tax was extended to handguns, so revolvers and pistols for the first time were also involved in this excise tax. And this is very important because that's actually where the money for hunter education comes from. In 1972, there was an additional 11% tax that was extended to bows, arrows, and other tax changes or additions to this. They made some changes in what was required or some specific purposes that were added to it. So now we have 7 different purposes, but the 2 that were added were, number 1, safety, which was specifically hunter education, and access, which translates into our shooting range program. In 1973, because for the first time hunter education program, we launched hunter education in the state of Kansas. The first coordinator was a game warden by the name of Royal Elder, who's well known within our ranks because of all the work that he did. He served for 11 years as our coordinator for hunter education, and he was tasked with taking a rather motley crew of individuals and working them into a cohesive unit of instructors. So he took a combination of Kansas game wardens, existing NRA instructors, both firearms and hunter safety instructors, state wildlife biologists, fisheries biologists, public land employees, other state agency employees, local and state law enforcement agents, and involved citizen hunters. Today, Kansas has over 1,200 active volunteer hunter education instructors on our rolls, and they provide hunter education classes in all areas of the state. So throughout the state, we have approximately 300 classes every year, with between 800 and 1,200 instructors being involved with those classes. It's kind of crazy to look back and see that in 1973, these Kansas hunter education instructors certified over 36,000 students in that one year. So 36,314. All the students that were certified at that time certified in using what we call the traditional hunter education platform. And they attended instructor-led lectures, demonstrations, and other activities. And throughout time, we have changed some of the way that we do this. But it was really important because that was the way we funded hunter education. And hunter education is funded a little bit differently than most of the other activities within the agency. Number 1, it's administered at the federal level by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, which is a part of the Department of Interior. And so we get audited every 5 years by the Department of Interior to see where we have spent our money. They take the excise tax that is levied at the manufacturer's level. So it's always done when the product is produced. So when they make the gun or they make the ammunition or whatever the item is that's going to be taxed, it's taxed at that level. Those money Internal Revenue Service, and it goes into a Department of Interior trust fund. It's a PR trust fund. And then it's distributed by the Fish and Wildlife Service through apportionment to state programs each year, usually by means of a grant system. The way the grant functions, it's 75% reimbursable for eligible activities, and the 25% have to provide the money in cash up front. We provide it in kind. So what we do is Kansas Hunter Education Program certified instructors conduct hunter education classes. And when they do those classes, so we record what it is that they ordered from us and what we sent them as far as materials. We take their rosters, all their students, we need their names and their date of birth so that we can get them into at least for the 11 and 12-year-olds. One day we're going to find in an alternate universe all the places where there's one sock and hunter education cards because they all go there somewhere. But we also take their activity report kind of like a timesheet. And so they record all of their hours, everything that they have done as far as time and their classroom time. And more money we can qualify for. So the program spends the money up front, and then the federal government reimburses the program $3 for every qualifying $1 that we spend up to the limit of the grant. So the Kansas Hunter Education Program is designed to be totally federally funded. So all the PR monies, fund monies in excess of the grant amounts are then apportioned to the shooting range fund. So those two different areas that were added onto, that's where those monies go. So basic hunter education money then goes into the shooting range fund. And that provides us the opportunity to build ranges like the El Dorado State Park shooting range, which we just built, the Hillsdale State Park shooting range that was the one that we built before that. Range, and we're building it up from the level. So that's where those monies are spent as we more opportunities for people to have access to places to go and shoot. Any unobligated monies, though, at the end of the allowable period revert back to the Federal Migratory Bird Fund, so those do not go back to anything else. The length of classes, though, have changed over the years. They started off as about a 4-hour class, and our manual looked like this. It was worth 10 cents, that's what it cost for us to buy it from the NRA, and it was just a basic small little manual that had a few hunting tips and a lot of gun safety involved in that. Over the years, and so we came up with a little bit bigger manual, and then we had a little bit larger manual. Students more than just gun safety. We teach them also about conservation and habitat and how we can improve those habitats and make things better for us. Now we are statutorily required to have a minimum 10-hour instruction period. So our classes are all designed to be 10 hours that are led by instructors. The Kansas Hunter Education course next big change that we did, before we died there, but we're still dead, okay. In 2004, the next big change came to our and we also brought forth a crash course option for non-residents. And I don't know if you're familiar with the crash course, but what that was is they took the online class, and then they came and they paid an instructor a small amount of money, and they spent an entire day working with them, and it never really got off the ground and did anything. People just didn't care for it. Well, it's up there partly. So it didn't work really well for our non-residents, but we worked with it anyway. In 2005, our next big change for us, yeah, we're in there somewhere. 2005, legislation set for the first time a minimum age for students. And so it went to 11 years. And prior to that, we had a lot of students that were in the 8, 9, and 10-year-old range. So we saw a significant drop in our hunter ed numbers over that period of time because we had 11-year-olds that happened in that. In 2007, we had another big change. 2011. Oh, 2007. There we go. In 2007, we began providing resident and non-resident hunters an option of an apprentice license. I'm not sure if everyone's familiar with what an apprentice license is, but it's a 1-year or a 365-day deferral of hunter education certification when you're hunting under the direct supervision of a licensed adult hunter age 18 or older. It's kind of designed as a try it before you buy it concept. It allows people to come in who have not experienced in hunting, but hunting in a mentored fashion. There is no organized instruction that's required from us to begin with. It's mentored hunting. So whoever their mentor is the one that's going to be taking care of them. In 2011, Kansas, for the first time, surpassed 500,000 student certifications. Through last year, 2020, at the end of the year, we'd certified over 580,000 hunter education students in Kansas. To our and we introduced, starting October 1st, a complete, no charge to the student, online delivery of Kansas residents ages 16 and the traditional and the internet-assisted courses will continue to provide certification options for students of all ages, younger students 11 through 15. We know that these courses are appropriate for student success for students of all ages because of our volunteer instructors who provide in-person instruction and direct supervision for them. But one of the problems we've run into for 20 plus months now are the effects of the extended COVID restrictions. They adversely affected our ability to offer sufficient numbers of a change that became necessary for us to meet student demands. Especially in our more urban areas, venues themselves were closed down. And that was a real problem because places that we had traditionally libraries, places like that, the venues themselves closed down. And so it wasn't our instructors who were having a problem, it was they had no place to teach now. So they were looking for new locations, new areas. But it became almost impossible to serve all of our constituents in some of those areas. So as we worked through some of these problems, the option that was chosen to address this need was a utilization of a delivery method that did not require an in-person event. We have also known that for years, Kansas students were opting to certify using an online-only delivery option that was offered by other states. So we had lots of our students who were going to these other states in order to be certified. We also knew that these other courses were not as comprehensive as what we would desire for our students to have. But since it was being taken out of our hands, we knew we had to do something about it. So it brought us to the point to offer a delivery option that was appealing to a growing segment of our Kansas students. It's important but it does allow us to serve a portion of our constituents that we feel like before was being underserved because we were not able to provide what they were looking for. We've used a complete online delivery option for our fur harvester education program for a number of years and for our bow hunter education for some years now because we recognized at that point in time we did not have a sufficient number of available instructors to adequately handle the student demand in those critical educational areas. But up till now, up to this point, our volunteer hunter education instructors have always been able to meet those demands. But it was because of COVID, it was beginning to be more difficult for us. So this is not a complete departure from our already historically accepted delivery options, but it's just one thing that we've added to it. The addition of a new instructors teaching the class wouldn't cost any money. So what we did was we went to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and amended our grant to allow us to use student numbers from our course. I think it's important for us to remember that there is a my customers that free was a dirty four-letter word that we don't. It's not free. It's free of charge to the student, but it's not free. The NRA has invested very heavily in this course, in how it was put together, being able to provide it online to maintain. The NRA donates it to Kansas for our use. But what we did was we and use certification numbers from the no charge to the student online course combined with a calculated dollar average as we looked across the spectrum of pay-to-play courses out there, if you want to call them that, to see what they were requiring for payment, and we were able to take 4 of those, average them out, and that average is what we get to use for our grant. So we take the number of student certifications by the amount we're allowed to, and we will use that as our in-kind option for participation in accessing these dollars. There's some interesting things that we've learned about the course so far since the October 1st rollout. First off, we have now over 1,000 certificates issued. As of yesterday, 1,072 was the last one that I saw, but we do have over 1,000 certificates. Since it's only for 16 and above, but it is interesting that as it is. Our student splits don't surprise us at all. We're still 1/3 female, 2/3 male. So those haven't changed. But what we don't know is, we don't know if these students are new to hunting or if they've been around for a while. We don't know why they chose this delivery method. We don't know if these students have a hunting mentor, which in our archery, our bow hunter ed, and our fur harvester ed, we're pretty sure that those students have a fur harvesting or an archery mentor. But for hunting, we don't know this yet. So we have some work to do to try to figure out what our students are thinking and how we can best serve them. So we have a lot more work to do to answer these types of questions. One of the things that we did that we think is very important is we designed the certification cards that are the completion of the course to immediately reflect course delivery format so that we can gather data and track trends regarding safety, specifically our incident rates and our violation rates. We've been working with our law enforcement division to try to be able to get a better idea of violation rates, because we want to know whether this option is going to have an effect on that. But when the card comes out, it's going to be very obvious. It's an online delivery method, because our typical numbers are a letter H followed by 6 digits. These new cards are NRA numbered, so they'll have NRA and 7 digits. And so we'll be able to tell immediately if something happens, and our game wardens do the incident report. We'll be able to look at it and say that's an online delivery method, or that's a traditional method, or at least a method that requires an in-person opportunity with the instructors. This is going to allow us to make some appropriate decisions going forward if we see a trend starting to develop. Other education courses have had a profound effect on hunter safety over the last 48 years, something that I'm really proud of. In 1969 alone, Kansas had 50 hunting incidents with 7 fatalities. 1969 was just a few years prior to hunter education coming to pass here in Kansas. In the 6 years, including 2015 through 2020, we had 49 total incidents with 1 fatality. So we went from 1 year to 6 years approximately having the same situation as far as our incident rates are concerned, with many fewer fatalities. Our progress has always been slow, but it has steadily gone downwards. Our best year to date was 2018, where we had 4 total incidents with no fatalities. Our goal, obviously, is to continue to work towards 0 incidents and 0 fatalities, but it's important for us to remind our students, whatever the delivery method is, that hunters must take responsibility for their own as well as everyone else's safety, because we cannot make them safe. We were talking the other day with Secretary Lovelace, and he remembers that he has a Kansas Safe Hunter patch, which we told him he has to quit wearing because they're not, we can't make them safe. So our patches now are Kansas Hunter Education patches, and all of our students receive one of those who come to our instructor-led classes. But like driver's education, passing driver's education doesn't make them a safe driver. It gives them an opportunity to go out and practice and become safe. Hunter education training does not make them a safe hunter, but it allows them to go out and practice, and hopefully they can become safe hunters as they work on this. One of the things that we try to instill in all of our students is something that was championed by our former coordinator, Wayne Doyle, when he said, load your brain before you load your gun. And we give those decals out to our students, and we hope that they stick it at least on their forehead, if no place else, to remind them that they have to be thinking when they're out there, because there are never enough laws in the law books or rules in the rule book to cover every situation that a hunter is going to encounter in the field. So these hunters are going to have to think and make good choices for themselves in order to be safe and keep people around them safe. But we try to make sure that our students go away knowing that. So, 2023, what's coming up in the future? In 2023, Kansas Hunter Education will celebrate 50 years of dedicated service to the hunters of Kansas. It's interesting, but we anticipate that when we get together in March of 2023 is our plan for our academy at that time, our Veteran Instructor Academy, we'll be able to welcome as many as 25 still active original instructors from 1973 to teach our program. We will not be 50-year veteran instructors. I think it's important. When I learned to scuba dive, to be a scuba instructor, they told me that if you get something else other than money out of teaching scuba diving, you will not be around here in 7 years. You might make 5, but you won't make 7. And I thought that was quite interesting, considering that we don't give them anything. We don't pay our instructors anything. They're volunteers. And they've given some of them up to 50 years of their life teaching hunter education. So it's important for us to recognize our valued hunter education instructors, because they are vital to the success of our program. And if you will indulge me for just one moment, I have a presentation I would like to make with your permission, Chairman.
Sure.
Okay. Mr. Marshall Ray, who's sitting in the back there, he's an old-time friend of mine. We've known each other for a lot of years and taught hunter education for a lot of years out here in western Kansas together. And Marshall has been around with us for 40 years now. So, Marshall, if you come forward. For years, we do something that probably we shouldn't do, but we do it anyway. We give our instructors something that's probably going to hurt them.
I don't think put my eye out.
We came prepared for that one, so. They hit 40 years, we provide them with a Daisy Red Ryder BB gun, which is really important. We put the hunter education logo on it, and we put their name up on the forestock. So, Marshall, hold this over here where we won't point it at anybody. Do that, and make sure you have that.
Okay. I asked for ammo, but he wouldn't give me it.
I told him I was going to give him an eye patch, but Aaron thought that might not be really good, so instead we gave him a set of eyewear. So, but that's one of the best things that I get to do throughout the year, is to travel around and visit with some of our instructors in our workshop and recognize them for all the years that they have. We've got a lot of instructors sitting out here in the audience today, which is cool, and a bunch of them have some of these guns already. So we appreciate them making the effort to be here, and appreciate all of them for all the hard work they do. Stand for any questions that you might have.
Okay. Are there any questions from the commission on this?
I've got one. What is their experiences? I'm assuming there are other states are using it in their hunter education as well.
At the moment, I think there are 14 states that use the program. It didn't take off quite as quickly as I think, what they probably thought it was going to, because from the beginning, it's always that are pay to use, kind of got there a little bit beforehand, but Aaron might know if Peter had said, but it's been a while. We rewrote the standards in 2014 for the International Hunter Association, the IHEA USA. I was a part of rewriting those standards, and when we rewrote the standards, we wrote them so that it was delivery neutral. So it didn't matter which way someone wanted to teach the class, they'd be able to meet those standards. And so that kind of opened up the works as far as when these different companies started providing an online option. But we just never took advantage has kind of made that a lot more difficult.
And what do you expect the ratio to be fully online and the hybrid in-person?
We have absolutely no idea at this point, because we don't know how people are going to respond to it. I don't anticipate that it's going to be at the moment, as of 2020, when we look back over our statistics, we found that we were half and half. So half of our classes were traditional and half were internet assisted, and we've never seen that before. Usually the internet assisted was running about a third of our classes, and the other almost 70% was traditional classes. But being shut down the way we were, that started to change, and people were trying to take advantage of being able to get to a field day for 6 hours instead of sitting in a classroom for 2 days. I think it's going to be a significant part of it, but I don't know that it's going to be the biggest part. It will be a significant part of what we do for those students who choose to go that way. For the ones who still want to have an in-person, we have conflicting information that comes about where most people want to still have a class with an instructor involved with it. So we don't know where it's going to actually end up.
Any other questions from the commission?
Is there any way to assure that you don't have a parent doing this in place of their child?
No. And that is a question that we've had. We have talked long and hard about that being a problem. Also, a problem of having students being able to cheat and be able to just look up the answers. That's always been a concern. We felt like with the internet-assisted course, we were able to take care of some of those concerns, because when the student gets out of the internet-assisted, when they do that, they take a final test. And then when they come to our field day, back and work on it and come back again. That has been an important part of what we've done to, I guess you want to say trust, but we also verify. Unfortunately, in this instance, we do not have a way to do that because there is not an in-person thing. So,
Second question, and it ties to the hunter-mentor, the relationship piece, because if I understand some of the R3 concerns, so at the same point, I can see women and maybe even some fellows at the age of 30, they're a little embarrassed to be doing this with 16-year-old kids, so I'm going to do it online, so I'm not embarrassed, but I still would really like to hook up with somebody to review, make sure I've got this right, maybe take me hunting. Is there some way to connect at the completion, or at least have them say, I'd be interested in meeting with somebody. I'd be interested in a mentored one-day hunt. Is there some way to connect that to facilitate some of that mentorship?
we're working on that because we don't part of our problem with the mentoring situation is being able to vet the mentors, to be able to, if we're going to connect possible people together, who are they and why and what? And, we're able to vet our instructors because we do background checks on them. As far as mentors are concerned, now we're into a whole new situation, and so we don't, in Hunter Education, we don't have that worked out yet, but we are working with our R3 component to try to see if we can't come up with a better way of doing that, to provide them with some hands-on. Because most of I just saw the number one thing that students getting out of any class want is more hands-on experience. But that's kind of, in Hunter Education, we do one thing really, really well, and that's teach Hunter Education. But when it comes to mentoring and doing those other things, we're now asking our volunteers at that, because we're asking them to just go and do more and more and more. Some of our guys, will give it 60, 80, 100 hours a year just to Hunter Education. And so asking them to go do more is a little bit more difficult. So we're trying to figure out who we can partner with to provide boots on the ground that are able to handle that mentoring process.
So there's no formal or existing connection between Pass It On, Outdoor Mentors, and Hunter Education, or any other group at this point?
We work with them. They have provided us, in the past, materials that we put in with our Hunter Education materials that we're going to send out. So they'll send us, stacks of flyers. We put those in, we send them out, and then our instructors are able to put it out with the materials for their students in the class. So we've worked with them and other organizations like that before, but I'm not going to say that it's been totally successful.
Okay, any other questions from the commission? Brad?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Secretary Lovelace. Well, Kent, you knew I was looking forward to this presentation. You really did a nice job. Great education. I appreciate you mentioning tracking the science, tracking the numbers. As an agency driven by biological, economic, each year, and you'll be able to tie future incidents to, how a person got their Hunter Ed. Any data from the states that have been doing full online courses for some years on the relationship between that full online course and equal or less effectiveness in terms of hunter safety?
No. Main reason is because the other states, as far as we know, do not distinguish between online-only presentation and their regular numbers. They will send, for instance, to Calcami a block of numbers. And so if you dig deep enough into the situation, you can find out where, who provided the course, all that kind of stuff. But they have to dig deep. We decided we wanted it to be immediately apparent, and we could tell immediately, and we only have one because they're the only free to the student course. And so we weren't going to accept 5 or 6 of them and then muddy the waters up with that. So we should be able to look at it immediately, but as far as we know, no one else has looked at that, and so we have no correlation. We anticipate, because it has taken a long time for the numbers to come down, if there's a change, probably it will be long-term, going back the other way. But again, till we have data, we really don't know. We're just kind of guessing.
Okay, thank you.
But yeah, we just wanted to make sure we could tell immediately.
Any questions from the public? Any comments? Please come up to the front, state your name.
Good afternoon, Chairman and Commissioners. First time I'm seeing any of you guys. So my name is number is 15957. I have a speech, so just so you know. Okay, so I was awarded the Kansas Hunter Education Instructor of the Year in 2010, elected into the Kansas Hunter Education Hall of Fame in 2019. I serve as the editor and secretary for the Kansas Hunter Education Instructor Association, also known as the KHEIA, which is how I will refer to them. And I am now the spokesperson for the KHEIA. I have a bachelor's in criminal justice, and I am a college comes before this department, or the Department of Wildlife and Parks, to express its concerns regarding only option for those who are as young as 16 to obtain their hunter education certification. We believe this course of action will increase the number of hunting incidents and deaths in the state of Kansas, and feel that Ms. Mounts, Mr. Miller, and Mr. Lovelace have not done their homework. Imagine our surprise when every instructor in the state of Kansas was informed, got a piece of paper here, bear with me here, was informed, maybe I'll get it out there, that classes would be suspended during the month of September through October 4th, our busiest month throughout the year, where the two largest classes were canceled, both in Wyandotte and Lake Afton, and roughly 1,000 students were not certified in these two classes alone, an estimated loss of $52,000 in matching money. That's just for those two classes alone. Then, each instructor received a letter dated September 21st, 2021, from the Director of Licensing and Education, Jessica Mounts, demanding we sign this letter or we will not be covered under the Tort Claims Act. This letter was regarding mask mandates and social distancing being imposed on instructors who were already following the rules. And if one thing you can guarantee the hunter education instructor, they follow the rules. Then on October 1st, 2021, the online option for hunter education certification was launched with absolutely no feedback, questions, or input from any Kansas hunter education instructor who does not work for KDWP or volunteer for the advisory committee. In 1973, the state of Kansas decided wisely to adopt a hunter education requirement for those who wish to purchase a hunting license. Since its inception, Kansas has seen a dramatic decrease in the number of hunting incidents and deaths. Prior to its adoption, the total number of incidents recorded from 1962 through 1973 was 446, with 53 fatalities. That is 11.88%. Since then, the total percentage of deaths from 1974 to present day has dramatically decreased to 4.39%. It is clear hunter education is the leading contributor. Makes sense. Knowing these numbers, the answer is quite simply hands-on training with firearms. This hands-on training incidents and deaths associated with hunting. Let's look at some additional numbers. From 2010 to 2009, I have a copy of this speech for you guys if you'd like to have it. That is a total of 3.67%. Take into consideration the total number of students certified in that same time frame, 87,351, where the total number of incidents equals 0.12% with 0.00458. Consider the same time frame for 15 to 20-year-old drivers in the state of Kansas. In an article titled "Kansas Third in the U.S. for Rate of Fatal Crashes Involving Teen Drivers," published in the Wichita Eagle on October 12, 2021 by Matthew Cowley, Value Penguin conducted a study regarding drivers between the ages of 15 and 20 in the country. In this article it states, quote, "According to Kansas Department of Transportation, motor vehicle crashes are the leading cause of death for Kansans between the ages of 15 and 18. end quote, and, quote, Kansas has the third highest rate of fatal crashes involving teen drivers in the U.S. since 2010, according to a new analysis of data from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, end quote. With Nebraska in first place at 16.3% and Utah coming in at second place with 16%. From 2010 to 2019, drivers between the quote, in total, 29,227 teens lost their lives in deadly crashes between 2010 and 2019. Of those, 62% were behind the wheel and 38% were passengers. Would you consider allowing 15 to 20-year-olds to take an online-only driver's test and give them their driver's license without any road test? Now we have a new question. Why are these driving numbers so staggering? Again, the answer is simple. There is no instructor providing mentoring. Let's look at a different online-only certification option available, boating. Kansas people between the ages of 20 must complete a boating certification. And this online certification has been in existence 10 plus years. I have not confirmed how much longer, but it is 10 plus years. According to the United States Coast Guard, in 2020, the fatality rate for boating in Kansas was 9.5% out of 84,468 registered boaters. Out of that number, the total number of accidents in the state of Kansas was 32, with 8 fatalities for a whopping 25%. Nationwide, the number of deaths by age clearly shows that certification for those over 20 years of age is clearly needed. These numbers clearly show that online certification is not a good idea, and neither is no certification. According to a report published by the National Shooting Sports Foundation using data from the National Sporting Goods Association and the Consumer Product Safety Commission National Electronic Injury Surveillance, hunting with firearms, which includes, I might add, tree stand hunting, is a mere 27 per 100,000, while the number of injuries associated with golf per 100,000 is 219. The total number of injuries per 100,000 in fishing has reached 175. At this point, you should start worrying about your decision to allow an online-only option for hunter education. In addition, using data from the United States Fish and Wildlife Service and the International totaled nearly $3.6 billion in 2014 to 2018, more than this, along with a strong network of 55,000 dedicated hunter education instructors, helps make hunting education instructors' role and expect these numbers to stay the same. Let's now consider the online-only course, and this is where my college education is going to be, or being a college educator is important. Are you aware that the answers to the questions in this course are online using platforms like Quizlet or Chegg? As a college educator, one of the things I see quite a bit is cheating using platforms like Quizlet and Chegg. Any student from elementary school through college is aware of these cheat websites, and they are used. I have personally started the NRA Hunter Education course and clicked the videos and walked away. Came back and clicked on the rest of the items, did not read any of it, and then was given a quiz at the end of each chapter, which, by the way, allows you to retake if you fail. I did a split screen and put up Google, and in Google I would start typing a question in the NRA course, and Google automatically finished the question for me. To be fair, this was not all the time, it was not for every single question, but that should be a red flag right there. Go to Quizlet or Chegg and automatically get the answers. They're going to do it. And by the way, Quizlet does have it listed, NRA Hunter Safety Course. The bottom line, students don't even have to watch the videos or read any of the content to get their hunter education certification. Do you honestly think that students who do this will be safe with a firearm? In addition, instructors are aware of parents who take courses for their children. With the internet-assisted course, students are required to take a pretest. Numerous other instructors and I have encountered students who have failed the pretest, with some admitting that their parents did the online portion for them. This should be a red flag. What guarantee do we have parents are not going to take the online only course? Are you willing to take that risk? In the U.S., 4 states have chosen not to offer online courses at this time: California, Colorado, Connecticut, and North Dakota. Of the remaining 46 states, 18 require a field day to accompany their online-only courses, and 5 outside of Kansas. None of these states have any means of recording the number of incidents for those who receive their certification online or in person, and I have talked with numerous coordinators on multiple states, so yeah. Thankfully, Kansas Hunter Education Coordinator Kent Barrett pushed for there to be a means in which to track the data in our state. But is that data worth that one extra life lost because of your desire to control a program that was not broken? The bottom line, are you willing to allow your child or grandchild to take the online-only option and give them a gun with no hands-on training? Would you allow your child or grandchild to go hunting with someone who got their certification through this online course? Are you willing to let anyone who has had no experience with the handling of firearms to get certified in hunter education with no hands-on experience or training? Are you willing to take responsibility for any deaths occurring because of this ill-advised administrative decision? The KHEIA requests that the online-only hunter education option be removed entirely, or a minimum 4-hour mandatory field day to include firearm handling and safety requirement be added. I have a statement from a fellow instructor who asked me to read. He could not be here. Larry Lampy, instructor number 6710, was certified in 1979 by one of the first hunters. And I know he is looking down at this mess getting created with totally online classes and shaking his head in disbelief. He instilled in me that you, as an instructor, that you need to read the student's face when you give information or ask a question if they understand the safety point. And that is totally lost with online classes. I understand that they can go back and forth in the course, but they are still not getting that hands-on example. I'm a firm believer if we would have access to them, that the hunter incident or old school accident report sheets, there will be a rise in accidents. I got into hunter safety way before I had kids, because I saw the need to help youth be taught correct safety and ethics in the field. In my heart, I feel the state is going in the wrong direction, and it only causes one more accident if it causes, safer, and I feel this is a slap in the face, end quote. Thank you.
I would like a copy of your speech.
Be happy, I've got 5 copies, so I didn't know how many I need.
Yeah, she needs
If I
one.
can have it, I can make sure they all.
Okay, go ahead and let her have it. You can do that.
Well,
Yes, sir.
Let me pass out what I do have.
Ken, I got
Correct. We decided we would not allow students younger than that.
anybody under 16 has to go to a field day.
Correct. 11 through 15 still have the option of doing a traditional class or the internet-assisted course. Everyone over the age of 16 course, or they can do the online, the total complete online course.
And
So we didn't
So a 16, 17, 18-year-old kid, or a 25-year-old kid, and he can take an online course and get his hunter safety. Is that correct?
If the state allows it.
How many states, I mean, do you see that? Is that common?
It's common, what we have seen, that over the age of 18, we're paying their $35 and going. 16 states now with us that have some sort of complete course that does 4 hours going online, and then we use a 6-hour field day to complete our 10-hour minimum course requirement by statute, is how we were planned to do that.
Is that the main reason that you chose to go this direction?
We knew that was happening, and so it was a way for us to control the presentation of the material better. The NRA class, I've taken it myself. It is a better presentation than some of the others that are out there. So we wanted to make it the best course that we could, but that did fit into the discussion, yes.
Thank you for your clarification.
Go ahead.
All right, my name is Bill Hodson. I'm a hunter education instructor, have been 35-plus years. I started in Manhattan. I've been working in the Kansas City area. I want to just highlight a few items that I've heard and respond to. We have been, the Wyandotte County instructors, which about 50 to 70 of us, have been watching this online come at us. Questions that come from a student from an in-person position to be answered. Online doesn't do that. If a student sees something but doesn't understand it, they can't ask it online. They can't get the answer. They can in an in-person situation. In regards to online, I think we have to not only instruct, but we have to verify. If you do not verify, you're making a big mistake. We're in the business to elevate firearm safety, conservation, and ethics. All of us hunter education instructors do that. We do it voluntarily because we love it. I would hate to see only without that verification. The other thing that we've been discussing is verification of an accident as to whether it was online trained or in-person hunter education. Some point, but what we can't identify is the person that had that accident, were they online trained? Education certificates will create a lower accident and death ratio.
All right. I think we're already trying to accomplish that, aren't we, Kent?
I try to record in all the incidents that come into the agency. We are the repository for all hunting incidents. So when they come to me, I'm the one who puts together the incident report that goes out. And from now on, we will indicate whether or not the people that were involved were trained online for the ones that we know about from Kansas. So we'll be able to identify that. Like I said before, we don't have a way to identify those for people coming in from out of state or who took their training in an out-of-state area. The only thing we can do is identify that they were trained in another state or certified in another state, or whether they're Kansas certified. Put that in the incident report.
Is there any more public comment?
We do have one from online, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Commissioner still wants to say something first. I think she was
I had two questions. Is this online, is it 100% pre-recorded, or is there any interactive component to it at all?
There's a lot of interactive components to it, but it is pre-recorded, so the interaction is with the student with the program itself.
The material,
The
not
material,
a person that
correct.
they can have conversation with?
Right.
Okay.
I don't
and then
think
my-
there's a chat option on that one. I'm not familiar with that. I didn't see it when I took it.
Okay. The other one is for students who, I mean, this is prompted largely by COVID and shutting down, as well as the going to out of state, if I'm correct in my understanding.
Yes.
So is there
Purchase one for 365 days, and then they can purchase the second one and get another 365 days.
So if their class was canceled this year, they can get another apprentice license unless they were already on their second year,
Unless they were on their second year.
and then they are in a bind?
Then don't have to have hunter education until they purchase their first license. So under the age of 16, 11 through 15-year-olds are not required to have hunter education. They just hunt with an adult, a licensed adult 18 or older, so it's in a mentored fashion. Once they turn 16, then they can purchase the apprentice license up to 2 times, but they can also take the online course at the age of 16. So we've tried to provide a situation when a student completes the internet-assisted course, they print out a qualifier sheet that designates that they have completed the work online. We give them a 90-minute. So we found that always get into a field day within those 90 days, so we've extended it to 365 days. So we said, if you get this done now and you can't get a field day in until May or, April of next year before we have our next field day in a location close enough to you, just bring your review, bring your stuff, come to the field day. You'll get allowed to come in, take the test to verify that they've done the work, and then they can do the field day, which requires them to shoot something. We have a live fire component to that, and we also have what we call our trail walk, which is an opportunity for them to see different kinds of hunting situations and be placed in a shoot, no shoot decision-making situation. And those things are required. Also, an ethics and responsibility apart, since we don't think that ethics and responsibility are necessarily being able to be taught in other venues, we're going to do it. So we do that as a part of every one of our classes, whether it's traditional or internet-assisted. That is something that we talked about an awful lot prior to going and launching an internet course, because that's a valuable portion of what our instructors do when they look them in the eye and they tell them sometimes the stories of how they got shot, or if they shot someone or something like that. We run Tragedy at Wrights Creek as a short video about one young man who was killed in a spread of decoys, and it is a powerful message that really resonates with the students and makes them think. Instructor-led courses all have those kinds of things in them. We're up to now about 70% of our courses. Those.
Thank you. And I do want to say thank you to all of you that are hunter education instructors. I still have my little yellow book and my little red patch. And I know this may feel like a challenge and disrespectful, but you are appreciated and you still fill a necessary role, and so thank you.
All right. Do we have a
online?
Yes, we have Tim Boxberger.
You guys hear me?
Yes.
Great. Okay, my name's Tim Boxberger. I live in Great Bend. Commissioner Gefeller and I happen to share the same hometown of Russell, Kansas. So, hi, Warren. I am starting my 33rd year as an instructor in this program. I currently sit on the Hunter Ed Advisory Committee and have done so for the last 15 years. In 2014, I was voted by my peers as the statewide instructor of the year. And later that same year, I was the inaugural recipient of the Champions of Hunter Education Award from the International Hunter Ed Association, given in part by Davidson's and Gallery of Guns. I was inducted into the KTIA Hall of Fame in 2015, and I currently serve as the current treasurer of the KTIA and immediate past president. So to say that Hunter Ed and gun safety is in my DNA and my passion is a bit of an understatement. I've had the privilege in the last 32 years to know just 3 Hunter Ed coordinators, Ross Robbins, Wayne Doyle, and currently Kent Barrett. I count these 3 as both friends and mentors, and the instructor I am today and all of my personal achievements in this program are owing to the fact that I followed, I listened, and I tried to emulate those 3 gentlemen. These 3 have made instructors feel like our opinions have mattered, and they respected the entire instructor base. Unfortunately, setting Ken aside within the last 60 days or so, Madam Commissioner, you made a very good point. I have felt disrespected, humiliated, marginalized, and demoralized with what's transpired with the decisions that have come down regarding this online program and how it's been rolled out. With what I have to say today, I fully expect my teaching credentials to be put in peril by someone above Kent's pay grade, but that's certainly fine. My reputation's impeccable, so if you guys want to do that, that's okay. I do have all the commissioners' emails, and I'll certainly let you know if something happens in that regard. I also want to tell you that when I name names today, there's nothing personal in what I bring to the table. I just don't know any one of the people that well. It's simply business, and you as commissioners need to know the players and what they've said and what they've done. It is the way it is, and it's my nature to call it like I see it, whether the truth hurts or not. I will not be rude or disrespectful, though, but I'm going to give you the truth as I see it. There's been a flurry of emails and correspondence about this online rollout, about what we're talking about today, from Ms. Jessica Mounts to Secretary Lovelace, and I'm going to read a canned response that Jessica sent to myself and other instructors, and I quote, KDWP's education section invested more than a year's time carefully deliberating the pros, cons, and opportunities presented by bringing a fully online option to Kansas Hunter Ed education program. Along with this, staff also spoke directly with many other states who were also offering a full online course to ensure staff made the best, most informed decision for Kansas. Now, on October 28th of this year, Secretary Lovelace sent my friend and fellow instructor Dennis Vincent. I'm not sure if Dennis is in the crowd today. And I'm looking directly at that letter, and his Secretary Lovelace direct quote is that this course is rigorous and to our high standards. Now, what after Rose Corby just shared with you, do all of you still feel wonderful about a course that a 16-year-old can manipulate with a split screen and pass this course without any understanding of this material? And in the part of southern Russell County where I come from, we might even call that cheating. I sure hope you wouldn't. But according to Ms. Mount's own words, all of you in the education department took 1 whole year to vet this course. And Rose Corby just destroyed your narrative by doing about 4 hours worth of research. Now, do you really believe what Mr. Lovelace told Mr. Vincent, that this course is rigorous and held to your high standards? That comment's astounding, and I might even add embarrassing. Now, I'm going to speak directly to Mike Miller and Brad Lovelace. Guys, I have supervised, I have hired and fired people in my capacity as a bank president and manager for the past 30 years. If I had a direct report, as you do with Ms. Mounts, that has bungled a major project as bad as this online course rollout has been, as well as alienating 1,300 volunteer instructors, I would have personally cleaned out her desk and showed her the door. But it seems like the more she doubled and tripled down on some of this stuff, you guys are just okay with it. Now, if you can still look every instructor in the eye and say you feel good about this, then it just shows me what a lack of leadership looks like at a state level. Commissioners, this is all about money, plain and simple. Increased license income and increased fees. The more people we can run through this program potentially equates to more licenses sold and fees charged. It would seem on its face that this online course would accomplish that in spades. And heaven forbid, we never would want to let a good crisis go to waste. This COVID mess was just a means to segue right into where we are now. Secretary Lovelace, you stated in your letter to Mr. Vincent in that same letter that you were sorry to hear that Hunter Ed is in some way tied to the lack of license sales, and you said that was not the case. But unfortunately, you're very misinformed because it was the very agency that you had that went to Wayne Doyle and told him that the traditional Hunter Ed course was a barrier to license sales, and that was in the late 90s. If you would have done a little bit of research, you would have found out that Wayne sat down with a number of us instructors and we developed the internet-assisted delivery method to combat that argument. Now, the interesting part of this, guys, is that the only people who have ever said that Hunter Ed is a barrier to license sales are those that are collecting the fees and selling the licenses. If they'd ever bothered to get west of Topeka, and I'm glad to see you out in Oakley today, to actually ask students and parents, they'd find that Hunter Ed is far from a barrier. In our part of the country, it's viewed as a rite of passage as well as a time-honored tradition. So I have to ask you exactly what Rose asked you, a very pointed question. How much is one fatality worth to you in increased fee and license income? Because that's right where we're headed. Commissioner Sporer, I got a question for you. I know you're a highly successful dirt contractor in this state. Would you allow someone into your high-dollar earth-removing equipment if their only education was the fact that they sat in the front of a computer and possibly cheated on the test? I hope not. If you really want to know how successful online
How much
learning
more
has been.
presentation do you have?
I'm sorry?
I wanted to know how much more presentation you have. I'm becoming a little, no, I don't want to say annoyed, but your tone is, we get it. We know where you're coming from. I just wondered if you were about done.
Well, if you don't want to hear anymore, I certainly won't do it.
I think I've got the general idea.
Okay.
Commissioner Sporer, Tim, let's just say that you're in college and you're 20 years old. You've got a friend from Kansas City that's never hunted. You've invited him to go hunting at the bottoms in the morning. And there's no way for him to get, obviously, a in-person class between 7 o'clock at night and 7 o'clock in the morning. And the guy's 20 years old. Would it be okay for him to take an online course out of Texas or stay home and not hunt? I think that's what we're down to. We're talking about 16-year-old kids. We're not talking about 12-year-old kids. We're talking about 16. Or maybe in most cases it might be 20 or a 25-year-old or a 26-year-old taking an online course. So how would you feel about that, Tim?
Well, I tell you, that person probably should have made a little bit better arrangements to do that.
But he didn't. He's just a buddy, and he's from Kansas City, and he's never hunted, and he's never been introduced to it. It's an opportunity. It's an opportunity for him to go hunting. So, would you rather have him take test in Texas or Kansas?
Well, actually, you can go ahead and you can buy an apprentice license and get around that.
Okay.
Okay. Is
But
there
rather than even taking an online course, he gets to be an apprentice. Is that better?
Yep. That's the way it's set up for a year.
All right. is most of the other public comment going to be of a similar flavor of what we've been getting?
I do have a quick question.
Yes.
Maybe more of a suggestion, but a lot of what we're talking about is about safety, which is great. And the mentorship portion of it, which would be great added, is at the end of the course, and Ken might be able to answer this, at the end of the course, is there an option for them to select, I would like to attend a field day, put me on the list? Is there an option to do that? Can that be added at the end of the course once they pass the test? Can they be added to the next field day list?
We'll have to look into that. That's something we can look into.
You know, go ahead, Warren.
The decision not to have a field day with the fully online, what's driving that? Just the timing of what?
Fully online.
I know. Okay, I get that, but I mean.
If we require a field day, then it would be the same internet assisted course we already have.
Okay, so then the reasoning for having a fully online course is what?
No in person.
I know what it is, but why are we doing it?
Does it require in person?
So we're making it easier for somebody to get their certification in a very short period of time.
Sure.
Or not.
I mean, I know what the result.
Travel.
I know what the result is, and I know what the course is. I don't know what the reasoning behind that decision is.
I think that a lot of students these days, online learning, whether we like it or not, is here to stay. And over the last 2 years, most of the people in this age group, that's how they begin to learn. You know, I have a lot. But I will tell you, I had to make significant sacrifices in both time and driving to be able to attend that. And I feel like I would have been able to have helped those kids enough that if there was an online option, I would have considered it. I didn't.
I guess my question is we do have to understand that online is kind of where the kids are now. But can time to go to get some to a field day, can you issue a provisional license and give them a year to get that test done? And with the requirement, just like we do with the apprentice license, that they hunt with a 18 or older, whatever that requirement is.
That was discussed and was not found to be a viable option.
Why?
Just because so many people will not go ahead and complete it. I mean, we have this problem of
But then they
give them a
couldn't.
certificate, but it's not a good certificate.
But then they couldn't get a license the following year if they had a one-year provisional. I mean, if all we're trying to do is give them an opportunity to hunt on short notice and get their hunter
That's
education.
not really it, because they have the apprentice license that's an opportunity to hunt on short notice.
Okay.
So that gives
But they don't have to have hunter education? Oh, that's right, you don't.
That one's all mental.
Okay, we have a hand up that's been patiently waiting.
Commissioners, my name is Robert Paramore. I'm almost 20-year veteran of hunter education. I'm also the president of the Kansas Hunter Education Instructors Association. To answer some of your questions, in Kansas, you are not required to have hunter's education until you turn 16, when you have to purchase a hunting license. Now, you can go online and get your hunter education certificate without ever seeing me or someone like me. I also sat on the advisory committee. This subject has occupied our advisory meeting for the last 3 years. This past year, it was our entire meeting on Saturday. It occupied 8 hours of our time. What the advisory committee suggested was going ahead with an online delivery for 18 years and older. Right now in Kansas, you're allowed 2 years for the apprentice license. 16 years old, 17 years old, 18 years old. If you've never been hunting ever and your buddy calls you up from Kansas City and says, I want to go, he can go get an apprentice license. He can run down to Walmart and get it. 2 years. Aside from the advisory committee, no hunter education instructors were conversed with on this subject. It was shoved down our throats because of one letter shutting down hunter education in September, for the month of September, because of COVID. A mask mandate that is not relevant. We have to sign a form until fiscal year end to be online is not, it is the issue, but it's not the issue. We understand that it's how kids learn. But if they're 2004, it offers a 1 day only. You have to do their work online to go through the book. Come out, go through a field day, 6 hours. 2004. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Tom Witham. My hunter ed number is 5945. I will be brief. I teach in the Salina and Minneapolis areas. I have been teaching hunter education for about the last 45 years. I recently became a West Regional Director with the KHEIA. I have also had the misfortune of being an eyewitness to my hunting partner, who was also my father-in-law, die in a hunting accident. After visiting with other hunter ed instructors, many from my area, we believe it is important for hunter ed students to properly handle firearms prior to being certified to hunt. We believe students need to hear the report and feel the recoil of any firearm in a safe environment to better understand that in doing so, they are joining the ranks of young adults. We also believe it is important to be able to tactfully explain to a hunter ed student and their parent or guardian that they do not yet have the muscle dexterity or the muscle mass to safely carry a firearm in the field. Please consider establishing a field exercise for all hunter ed students. And finally, a year or two ago, at hunter ed class, I was told that I had joined the ranks of hunter ed instructors who are male, pale, and stale. I'm proud to be in those ranks. Thank you.
I have a question for Kent. On those hunters, those individuals that are going out of state to take the test, what is the age breakdown?
In Texas, it's 18.
No. Our hunters here that are going outside to take it.
Right.
What are they?
You may not know the answer.
We don't know.
You don't know if they're
No,
youth
they
or
have to be
adults.
18 or older, is all we know.
Those are the ones that are currently going out of state for the online option.
For Texas, Oklahoma, might be 8 or 9. I know Alabama is 8 for their online within the state of Alabama.
New York is 11.
New York's
So-
11.
That's fully online?
Yes.
That's a little frightening.
So a boy from Kansas, 8 years old, could take a test in New York or Oklahoma?
If he's 11.
Okay,
If Oklahoma is 8, I know at one time it was 9, but yes, they could take the course there. They could take the course, be certified, and then we would reciprocate with every other state, so.
Do we know when they apply for their license, where they got their certification and what kind of certification it was? Do we know? If it's
Yes and
fully
no.
online?
We know what state it is, but we have no idea
We
what
don't know if it's fully online or...
We're as far as I know, we're the only state that differentiates that up front. All the rest of them, you get a block of numbers. We just saw Oklahoma's card, and it's just like 9 numbers, and that's all it says. It just has a number.
It's not an NRA number?
It is not an NRA number, it's just a number that they issue in the state.
I'm going to make a suggestion here. Comments and sort of unity of thought of the instructors, and nothing that they've brought out isn't correct and accurate. I also personally see some merit in having some online options, and I think that there's significant merit to that. We're not going to change anything. We're not going to vote on any of this today. Right now, it's a done deal. And it's within the rules and the, I suppose, bylaws of the agency, and it was done with the best intention. If communication was misconstrued in kind of a hurried fashion with COVID, as we know how these are, and some of those are directives that come down to our agency that Jessica and Brad and others wouldn't have had anything to do with, that we have to do like every state agency. I'm going to suggest that rather than continue to beat on this, that staff consider the comments and meritorious suggestions that we've had today, and see if there's some ways we can provide a delivery that is more comfortable to the hunter education instructors, still with an eye towards moving our delivery system in the way education is unfortunately going. So I'm not saying we're going to do anything, but we hear you. We hear all of you. And I think we'll try to see if there's a way we can accommodate that, because we appreciate the countless hours of well from that. So if we can, Secretary Lovelace, we can kind of rethink it again, come back with another presentation, because a lot of the commissioners clearly have concerns and questions about this as well. And we'll continue to think about it. No promises, but it will come back up again, and it'll come back up in a way that you can have public comment again.
May I ask a question? Is it possible for us to have communication about upcoming meetings with respect to what's going to be?
Jessica?
In advance?
I'm sorry. I just want to make sure you guys hear this from me. Obviously, this has not been the perfect situation. We had just days to get large amounts of communication out to multiple people. We have made mistakes as far as communication goes, but we still invite you, and we've invited all of you this entire time to please tell us your thoughts and tell us your opinions and your experience. Still working out schedules, but we have 2 focus groups that we would like to invite stakeholders to. We have a plan to send specific invitations to the groups that you heard from today. One of those will be a virtual one, and one of those will be an in-person one. And those will be happening probably before the end of the first quarter of next year, because we know that we can't make decisions for hunter education in Kansas without the experts in the room. So we want to make sure that we have plenty of time to get that information from you. So you will have plenty of time. Like I said, we welcome your suggestions. We think there's a ton of opportunity here to expand the program and to serve even more people. So we just welcome that conversation.
I have a question for her.
Yeah, sure.
How did you come up with the mask mandate and the 6 feet mandate for our classes when nobody in the state was doing it?
So that's
I'm talking about USD 379 in Clay Center, didn't have a mask mandate. We don't have nothing like that. Why did we have to all of this stuff?
So I appreciate your concerns about the masks, but we did not issue a mask mandate. What we did was we passed all the information. We passed information that had come from the Department of Administration that told, I'm sorry, are you going to let me finish? Will you let me finish, or do you want me to answer the question? A document from the Department of Administration that provided guidance to state employees requiring us to wear masks in our offices while we were at work and if we could not social distance. So social distancing, remote work, social distancing, and wearing a mask while in the office and conducting work. So in order to get all of our ducks in a row and figure out how to make the best choices for all of our hunter ed instructors, all 1,500 of you who are, as volunteers, state employees, in order to pass that information on to you, we had just a few days. That was not a decision that I made. It wasn't a decision anybody at the department or anybody in the hunter ed section made. We just had to pass that information on to you all because you're state employees. We had to let you know what the rules were so that you knew how to follow them. We would have been remiss in our duties if we hadn't done that.
And the rest of the state employees that I talked to go to Topeka, go wherever else, and no masks.
Well, I am only one state employee, and all I have authority over is the
on one way or the other. And this is, I'm familiar with the missive that she received from the Department of Administration, and every agency passed it along just like she did. This is about hunter safety, not about masks. And if feelings were hurt about a letter that was sent in a big hurry to comply with the governor's orders, we're sorry for that. But let's move on from masks and talk about how we can make hunter safety the best in the country. I'm ready to move on to another subject, unless Secretary Lovelace wants me to stay on this.
Hand raised on.
Okay, sure.
Thomas, I'm going to unmute you here.
Hello? Hello?
Yeah, Thomas, we hear you.
Hey, how you doing? This is Tom Van Hookie. I'm a longtime hunter ed teacher. Just going out for food for thought. I guess I'd have a question on, would you gentlemen be comfortable, and this isn't a personal attack, I'm throwing out this for people in general, because I put this out to the parents of my students, or would you really be comfortable with, say, and it's been brought up, I think, in the meeting, your kid goes out here and takes an online class and you throw him the car keys. You know, if he has an accident in the car, he's got airbags. If he's out there with a high-powered rifle, there is no security once he shoots somebody with that gun. And I really wonder if any of you guys would feel comfortable with your own kids. Going back to the guy there, with the guy from Kansas City, what if he had never driven a car? Would you let him just take an online class, throw him the keys to your car, and let him drive your grandkids around? Because, I mean, that's what we're looking at. I've worked with these kids, and we not only do live fire, we do an advanced hunt, where even though they've been through the class, having that hands-on opportunity when they're hunting over dogs, live birds, you just don't really get it until you see that all that training is still hard for them to grasp. And I think about these kids doing this online where there's no accountability. They can cheat their way through that class any way they want. We have that problem with the online class at times now. I had a young lady that was crying when she didn't get passed. Well, her brother was giving her the answers and he gave her the wrong answers. So I've experienced it hands-on. There is no substitute for some hands-on training, I guess is what I'm trying to say here. So I hope we keep that in mind and not cave to convenience here 100%. And and those issues. So thank you for your time.
This, and I want to thank him for all of the help and time he's put into this. And he will, as a token of our appreciation, somebody baked you a cake, and we're going to have a piece of cake and take about a 10-15-minute break, and then we'll get back to the meeting.
Okay, thank you very much.
Check 1, 2.
Check 1, 2. Check 1, 2. Check, check, check. It's working. Check 1, 2, 3, 4. Check. Check 1, 2. Okay, you have your mics back.
All right, let's get started. We got some more agenda items. We had a little technical difficulty, but Jason and the gang has it all taken care of. Commissioners? And you know, it wouldn't be a meeting without Matt Peak. Are you out there, Matt?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me okay? Can you hear me okay?
I can now.
Okay. All right. And did I hear right? This is Gary's last meeting?
It is Gary's last meeting.
All right. Well, I'll just thank Gary for his approach and insight on a lot of different things over the years. So appreciate that. And with that, I'll go ahead and present on Antelope, which is KAR 115-25-7. We're not recommending any changes for this regulation at this time, so I'll just kind of quickly hit some of the major components, and these are found in the briefing item. But for pronghorn, we have unlimited archery permits, and these are available for both residents and non-residents. Our firearm and muzzleloader permits are restricted to residents only, and half of these permits are assigned to landowner tenants and the remainder are awarded to general residents. And we don't have permit allocations to recommend yet. We will provide those at a later date, probably after our January aerial surveys. And so that's when our main recommendation, or the any changes that are in this recommendation, will be made, and they would just apply to limited draw permit numbers. The season dates are standard and they're provided in the briefing book, so I will not read over them. But if you have any questions about the regulation, I'd be happy to try and answer them.
Are there any questions for Matt? Well, it looks like you thoroughly covered that.
All right. Well, we will move on to elk then, KAR 115-25-8. Again, we're not proposing any changes to this regulation. It's standard to what it has been in recent years, so I will not read over I won't read over the specific season dates, but they are provided in the briefing book. I will say that the elk permits are available only to Kansas residents, and the limited draw applications are separated into military and non-military applicants. The units are provided in the briefing book there, but the Unit 2 recommendations will be similar to the pronghorn permit recommendations. We will come up with elk permit recommendations a bit later in the season. We will propose an unlimited number of hunt-owned land, antlerless only, and either sex permits be authorized in both Units 2 and 3, and that an unlimited number of general resident and landowner tenant antlerless only and either sex permits be authorized in Unit 3. So that's the bulk of the state where anyone can hunt, that the general residents are allowed to buy permits over the counter. So with that little bit of information, I will turn this back over to you, Mr. Chairman, for questions.
Are there any questions from Matt, from the commission or the public? Artfully done, Matt.
All right, thank you.
Is Levi in the same office there? You want to wake him up?
Yeah.
Okay, Levi, take it away.
We're not here. Levi, we're not here. Levi, we're not hearing you. Check your mic, because I'm not hearing you on anymore. Side.
Well, I'm sure it's a good presentation, but
Matt, can you say something so we can see if we can hear you?
I can run in there and see if he wants to come into my office real quick.
why don't you do that?
Okay, now can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Sorry about that. I don't know what happened there. All right, so I'll be talking about the Big Game 4 Series permanent regulations. And the only regulation we're actually proposing any changes to is KAR 115-4-11, which is the Big Game and Wild Turkey permit applications. And so currently with that, a pronghorn hunter who have purchased a preference point or were unsuccessful in limited draw can also purchase an over-the-counter archery permit. And we'd like to modify that regulation so that a pronghorn hunter could either get an archery permit or apply for a limited draw permit or get a preference point, but not do both in the same year. And with that, there's some included figures there in your briefing book that shows the increase in the number of applications and hunters over the recent years. And just to kind of address some of that, about 35% of the archery permit holders also have limited draw points, including 135 solely from last year alone, and then 273 over the last 3 years. And so this is just to try to address point creep and allow these permits to be distributed a little more evenly. And also with that, we'd like to not have to have people that want to get a firearms permit, take 10 years to be able to get enough points to do that. And so we hope that this will help address that. And so allowing pronghorn hunters to either get an archery permit or apply for a limited draw or buy a preference point is the change we're recommending on that regulation. And that is the only change that we're recommending on the 4 Series regulations.
Are there any questions for Levi? Okay, do you want to move on to the 25 series?
Yes, sir. So the Deer 25 series regulations are the regulations that set the seasons, and some of the other provisions, such as limitations on obtaining multiple permits. And the current season structure is similar to the last couple seasons. But the big change that we're asking for here is that on several of our wildlife areas where we've allowed additional deer harvests with the use of those 4 additional whitetail antlerless only permits, we would like to take those areas off of that list and only allow 1 antlerless only permit to be allowed to be used, similar to what most of the rest of the state currently is under. And so the areas that we're looking at removing or putting back under the standard state regulation of only 1 antlerless permit can be used there are Glen Elder, Canopolis, Lovewell, Norton, Webster, and Wilson wildlife areas, and also Kerwin National Wildlife Refuge. So that is the major change with that. And then the proposed recommended dates, youth and disability would be September 3rd, 2022 through September 11th. Early muzzleloader would be September 12th through the 25th. The archery season would start concurrently with muzzleloader on September 12th and run through December 31st. The pre-rut whitetail antlerless only season would be October 8th through October 10th. Regular firearms is November 30th through of 2022 through December 11th. The first extended antlerless season would be January 1st through January 8th. The second would be the 1st through the 15th. The third is the 1st through the 22nd. And then the extended archery season in DMU 19 is January 23rd through January 31st. And so those would be the recommended changes for and season dates for the Deer 25 series.
Okay, are there any questions for Levi? Hearing none. Thank you, Levi.
Welcome.
Okay, we have one other item here under general discussion this afternoon, the Great Kansas Fishing Derby. David Brett.
Okay. All right. All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, for allowing me to talk today. My name is David Brett. I'm the Sport Fishing Education Coordinator with Wildlife and Parks. And we, as a fisheries division and as an agency, put on this Great Kansas Fishing Derby between May 1st and July 31st this year. Seems like only yesterday I was trying to find a service in Silver Lake with a truck bed full of catfish with tags in them to drive around so I could present at the April Commission meeting and tell, the updates about it. It's getting ready to start today. Blink my eyes and all of a sudden I'm here talking about it's over. So I really appreciate this and sharing some of the cool things we learned about our effort. Just a quick review. It was a Wildlife and Parks led effort. We did encourage local sponsorships, but we took it on ourselves. This first year, we weren't sure, with 2021 just recouping from the COVID pandemic in 2020, what we could possibly accomplish. So we said, we'll do it ourselves if we have to, but we always encourage local sponsorship. We did have two statewide partners, the Bass Pro and Cabela's Outdoor Fund. They provided almost 150 tags for the process, or for the 3 months. And Kansas Wildscape Foundation, they provided up to 100 tagged fish, as well as a prize that we're going to give away today. And then we had raffle prizes that were given away through our online registration system through ksfishderby.com. That's where we managed the derby, where people could find out information about it as well as redeem their tags. The objectives of the derby were pretty simple. We wanted to have a positive impact on license sales. We knew 2020 was going to be a record year, a record increase in fishing license sales. So we may not be able to increase that, but we wanted to make sure we had a positive impact on sales. We wanted to have a positive impact on local commerce. We wanted to highlight some of these fisheries and the communities around them, so people would travel there, spend time there fishing, and spend money in the local community. And then increase the awareness of the lakes that we have out there, besides just our reservoirs that most people are familiar with, and our agency and all the cool things we do. So some quick facts. We had 515 total tags, 35 participating lakes. It ran for 3 months. We had 28 total sponsors. We had prizes between $200 and $250. 105 tags were redeemed and verified. 4 fish were caught twice. So we had 4 largemouth bass that caught the fish. They didn't take the tag off like they were supposed to, which is okay because the next person caught it and then they had also won. So that's pretty cool. And we had 2 out-of-state winners, and we had 1 tagged sunfish that was accidentally put in the bucket from one of our employees. And since it was a child, and so they weren't able to win, but it was pretty cool. We did replace that tag, so it was 1 more tag out there. And you did not have to register for the derby itself on the website. You could just buy a license and fish, of course, if you needed a license. But if you registered for the raffle prizes, you could win. We had 17 winners and 2,700 total registrations. So I just wanted to share with you a little bit of the data. We're currently evaluating this, but I wanted just to, a lot of people were talking about it, and people wanted to know, was it effective and what happened? So I just wanted to kind of just briefly touch on a few things. You'll see here we had mostly catfish tagged, and that was because we used a lot of stocked catfish. So we wanted to seed those lakes, a lot of those lakes, because we wanted people to win. That was the whole point of this. It wasn't to just, promote a derby. We wanted people to win. So we made sure the fish that were fed and not very smart were out there in the water for people to catch. And if you'll see, we had about 27% of those tags returned. If you looked at the bottom there, about 50 out of 166 were returned were stocked fish, and then 6 of 45 were wild catfish that were also tagged. Black bass were second. You'll notice what caught me off guard a little bit was flathead catfish. We only had 9 out there, but 4 returned. And drum, we had 5 out there and 2 returned. So maybe we should just do a flathead and drum derby, and we'll have all the winners we can handle. So this was the distribution of the lakes. In Kansas, we have a lot of water out east, but not so much out west. And the public access is kind of that way too. So we had more water in the east, or more waters in the east. Harvey County west and east were the most returned at over 50%. That was kind of cool because I reached out to the CFAP cooperator contact there, Cass Miller with Harvey County Parks and Rec. And I said, hey, we really want to come out there and tag fish in your lake, but can you help us get some local sponsorships? And he took and ran with it. So not only were we able to do Harvey County East, but he got enough that we were able to do both lakes with local sponsorships. So restaurants in the area, an automotive center gave away a gift card so you could get your oil changed, and hardware stores, and they chipped in some cabin stays. So it was really cool. And they turned out to have the most caught, so that even worked out well too. A lot of people asked why we didn't do reservoirs, at least this first year. If you look down Cedar Bluff at the very bottom, we had 20 tags in there. We only got 2 returned. So if we would have put 20 tags out there, we may, in all of our reservoirs, we may not have had as many winners. So we're learning just after this first year that if we're going to do bigger reservoirs, we're probably going to need more tagged fish. So we contracted with Southwick Associates to evaluate this derby. Anytime anything new comes along, we definitely want to see if it worked. And that's what everybody wants to know. Like, did this achieve the goals we wanted to achieve? And so we just went ahead and said, hey, let somebody else do that. That way there's no bias on our part. Says, yeah, we really liked it, so we're going to make sure it worked. So we contracted with them to look at the sales and also some surveys from angler sentiment and demographics. So right now they just, they're about to finish their data evaluation for the licenses, but this is the initial findings. So between April 15th was when we announced that the Derby was happening, when people might say, okay, I need to go buy a fishing license, to the end of the event, 28,000 people were reactivated or purchased a new annual fishing or combo license. So that is saying that after 2020 record increase, we had people that purchased licenses on top of that in 2021. The top 6 sales counties had at least one Derby lake. So we are looking at a county level. We want to know if there's about 30 counties in the area that had a lake in them. So if those 30 counties showed a positive impact to license sales and the other 75 didn't, then that's a note to us saying, hey, we need to put as many Derby lakes in as many counties as possible in order to achieve statewide success. Probably not 105, but we'll do our best. And overall sales in June and July were nearly equivalent to 2020. Again, a record increase year. So was it the Derby? We don't know. We're going to find out. Highlights from the registrant survey. So these are the 2,700 people that registered, took the time to sign up for emails or signed up for the raffle drawings. We contacted them because we wanted to learn a little more about, how they fished or how they participated in the Derby. 15% indicated they purchased a license because of the Derby. 60% traveled 30 miles or less. So again, closer to the water is probably the more impact you'll have on sales. 70% fished with friends and or family. This was really important. We wanted to know what their behavior was like. A lot of us go fishing by ourselves. We want to kind of relax, get away, or maybe we just don't want to mess with maybe taking someone with us. We just want to fish with by ourselves. But this kind of incentivizes you to take people with you because you may not catch a fish, but if more poles in the water in your party, chances are someone's going to catch a fish. And so we really like to see that 70% on a fish with people. 37% fished more this year than last year during that same time. And 15% were satisfied with their fishing experience during the Derby time. So 37% were extremely satisfied, 20 were just satisfied. So that's just great. We're providing a quality product out there. 12% were not, so I'm guessing those ones didn't catch a fish. So that's what I'm guessing happened. But there's always people that aren't satisfied, and we try our best to make sure everyone is. And just note that this survey is in progress. It may change a little bit as more people respond. I just want to share some highlights and some feedbacks. I'm not going to read them word for word, but this is how they were submitted to us. This person didn't catch a fish, but thought it was a great idea. And in fact, where they work at a machine shop, 90% of the people participated. So they found out about it and they're like, let's go catch some fish. And that's what it's all about. So again, bringing others into it. This person noted that they felt like they were at a disadvantage because they didn't have a boat. And so as we select lakes in the future, and we did this year too, make sure to include lakes where it has adequate shoreline access, whether it be docks, piers, maintained shoreline, stuff like that. This person said that they didn't catch one, but his wife and his son did. So, but the son caught one after it was over, so they wanted it to extend longer. This was a good one because they talked about how awesome it was, how awesome fishing is, but they didn't mention catching a fish. They just said they loved getting outside and letting the world go away and just enjoy life out there. This one again reflects the distance one. Having to drive outside the county was a little too much. So again, we need to focus on dispersing our lakes around to meet that 30-mile buffer. And advertising more. So this was a big one. We are not advertisers by trade. We are biologists and educators, but we do now have a really robust public affairs section with marketers now and social media people. And we did work with them, but we use news releases and Facebook. So we know we can do better on this. And we also put signs out at the lakes that they were out there, at the lakes that were Derby lakes. So we can definitely do better at this, and we will. And we're sorry that if people didn't find out till the last minute, we apologize, and we'll do better next time. But overall, positive. Not one person said this was a bad idea. so far. Tag more fish and add more lakes, no matter what that number is going to be, they're always going to ask for that. But that's what we needed to try to achieve. We were definitely stretched pretty thin with what we had this year. So it's going to take a lot of strategy to figure out how to expand that. And with that, I want to say thank you to our sponsors. We shared these logos on that website so people could see, the sponsors out there. I really want to again point out the Outdoor Fund because they stepped up big time, especially David Wade at the Wichita Cabela's. He helped me apply for the funding and get that through. And then Mark Merle with the executive director at Kansas Wildscape. Wildscape's awesome. They do a lot of things with the same mission that we have, is getting people outside, appreciating the outdoors and participating. And so it's been a great partnership over the years. But with that, with the commission's permission, we did have some prizes left over. So I would like to take this time, we have a bucket of balls here to award some more prizes. So if you want to draw some prize names, but not to put you on the spot live on TV, but we want to do that. So what we did is we took the 2,700 registrants, and we don't have 2,700 golf balls. So I had to do additional random generator to cut them down to 211 to match the number of golf balls. So what I'll do is I'll just go around and you pick a number out. The first prize will be for $100 worth of Walmart gift cards. Number 85, and I am allowed to say the name and location of where they're at. So I can say, I wasn't sure if I could, but I am. And I'm sure you want to know if you are watching. So number 85 is Steve from El Dorado. You won a $100 Walmart gift card. So let me write that down. All right, number 117. Oh, I'm sorry. This is $100 Cabela's Brass Pro gift card. So 117 is Devin from Benton, Kansas. What was that prize? That was $100 Bass Pro / Cabela's gift cards, since they're one and the same now. The next one is the Kansas American Fisheries Society. They donated a Fishes of Kansas book, which is a really nice book that has all the fish of Kansas, and it talks all about them. So if you want to be a good angler, you can read about sport fish. If you just want to know what's all out there, you can read about all the fish. So that, and also a tackle box to go with it. So I'm going to skip you because you're a great. All right, so number 173 is Rod from Harrington. All right, and the next prize. Thank you. Is a fishing rod and reel combo with tackle. It's number 68, which is Bruce from Derby. Okay, and the next one is a telescoping rod. It's a nice little package deal where you can almost fit it, put it in a car or a trunk with tackle. Yeah, I'll let you. Ball number one is Michael from Dodge City. So we have one more prize. Commissioner Cross, sorry you're not here today. Anybody wants, if Commissioner Haslett, you want to do one for your honors for your last one, draw one for him. You're gonna draw for the, yeah, go for it. Draw a second one. This one is for $50 worth of Kansas Wildlife and Parks gift cards that can be used on fishing licenses, park passes, anything that we sell. Okay, ball number 105. Is Scott from Shawnee. Scott from Shawnee. Okay. Okay, now put all those balls back in. I almost forgot that step. That been bad. All right, so again, we want to thank everyone that participated in the Derby and also helped with the Derby. Kansas Wildscape, when the first thing I said, hey, I just need some tagged fish. That's all I need. And Mark, an executive director there, got together with his funding sources, as donors, and said, hey, what can we do? And they wanted to donate a lifetime hunt and fish license to someone in this prize pool. So what we did, and who had caught a tagged fish. So these are the anglers. As I said, we had 105 total tagged fish caught. When I added in those 4 that caught the tagged fish twice, because I thought they should be included, but deleted the duplicates, we did have some people win more than one name, or sorry, one prize, catch more than one tagged fish. We ended up with 105. So we have 211 golf balls in there. So each person has 2 balls in there. Does that make sense? So there's 210. So if fate or Lady Luck has a sense of humor, you'll draw ball 211. Because then nobody will win. But other than that, if you draw any other ball, someone today, thanks again to Kansas Wildscape Foundation, their most famous thing they do every year is OK Kids Day. They're responsible for getting that information out and helping communities, state parks, individuals organize those events. But they do all kinds of other things. So please visit their website, kansaswildscape.org. And if you like what you see, donate your time. All right, without further ado, the winner of the lifetime hunt and fish license, which is transferable. If you already have a lifetime license or you're not eligible to get one for any reason, you can give it to somebody else.
Ready?
Not 211.
Number 52.
52. Looks like Andres from Garden City. You have won a lifetime hunt and fish combo license, and we will be in touch. I will be in contact with all of the winners, hopefully by tomorrow, if everything goes well, and we'll try to get your prizes to you as soon as possible. Yes, thank you. All right. With that, I'll stop. Is there any questions, comments, anything anyone wants to talk about?
That looks great.
All right.
Thank you. Oh, well, there you go. So weird. I'm asking. Oh. I don't make this.
Any other questions for David? Thank you.
Thank you.
That concludes this afternoon's session. We're going to recess and we will reconvene right here at 6:30. All right.